and economically. They really do. And I grew up there. I grew up here. And so I've watched. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I understand that you're talking about the story world only, okay, which is normal because that's the main topic of the workshop. It's also the most important thing. And this morning we listened to one of our mentors. We have appointments with mentors, so we had one this morning, and it was exactly about storytelling and how we can enhance the storytelling using the transmedia concept. So it makes sense that we are very concerned with the story world. But if you think in terms of okay, I just want to let you know that I'm recording, but you already know, right? Okay. In terms of the production family, I want to make sure we are on the same page, right? Are you talking about producing content already, or are you just thinking about producing the transmedia campaign?
Well, we started off, this is only 25% of what we're about to say, but the first 25% was, what is it? Not what we want it to look like and say and talk about, but what is it? And we agreed, I think, that it's not Warren County, that it is,
Okay,
that it is that. And then whatever you want from us in terms of talking about it or collaborate, we do have a couple of pillars that have crept in. One is we want that circle to be highly inclusive and highly collaborative to a fault.
Okay, but I think it's still the production, it's still the story world. So you're talking about the content, like the stories, the strategy, etc. So what we want to do now is to co-design with all the families a transmedia campaign. So if you're talking about the story world, the way you maybe you can use this to place your ideas already, or maybe you want to do another document like this that will be understandable for somebody coming tomorrow, for instance, right? That we can use and put over there for the outcomes. And so let's go around with the other family to see how we can relay this result to some other things and how it's going to work together.
Go down those categories and what we discussed.
Exactly. So
we were the ones that originally community, and we need to. That definition might help.
Tara is going to talk about the community's family, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Al and I started and we looked at all these different pillars. And for us, the quality of life, public health, housing, and infrastructure, all while they're independent, they all work pretty much very similar in the same way that what we're looking at is your quality of life is very, very heavily dependent upon our transportation opportunities, our healthcare access, and housing opportunities, especially as our focus in our current generation as they age. Because it's no big secret, Bowling Green has a horrible traffic problem right now, and there's just no good way to get from one side of town to the other. But we also are struggling with, you got housing, you've got to where the point where people cannot afford single family housing for, outside of unless you're older or you're a retired generation, or you've got very apartment living, you've got limited access to like single family residences, or what access there is, it's not the best quality of homes or things of that nature. So those are all things that we've kind of talked about that play into that quality of life for a community. In an ideal situation, one of the things when we started collaborating with production would be talking about more planned communities where we can focus on specific areas where, hey, maybe this whole community, and maybe we top out about $100,000 for these homes, and there's a walkability aspect of it. You can walk to the neighborhood bakery, you can walk to neighborhood schools, you have all that stuff within one area, and you still have like health clinics and stuff of that nature within the larger area of Bowling Green. So each of these little communities, or not even just Bowling Green, but inside the circle that we're talking about, in each of these communities, while they have their own individual kind of culture and everything, we're all working collaboratively with each other for a better communities. We have access to better jobs, better public transportation, better healthcare overall, and it kind of grows from there. Economic development and talent development, I'm just going to say Bowling Green's already doing a fantastic job at that. I think that, you know, we need to continue moving towards that focus. Tourism kind of falls hand in hand. One of the things that we really like the idea of, especially this regionalization concept, is that tourism, while you want things to do in Bowling Green, you have the Corvette Museum, you have Lost River Cave, you have Sky Pack, you have all these different options. But we also have talked about where Bowling Green is the hub, and you come here and you stay here. You have your hotels, you have your restaurants and everything. But we're within easy driving distance of day trips, like going to the building our home place, going to the Rosing Barn, going to Mammoth Cave. Going to all these different little areas that you can do, and then come back to Bowling Green. And that kind of really works with an idea from a community standpoint. Is this is a great place, raise a family. It's a great place to be a young professional. It's a great place to retire. It kind of helps focus on all those different ages. So that's kind of the things that did I hit it all, Alan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, there you go.
Now, what you're the ones who are going to be here in 2050. What are your priorities? What do you see as?
Can I say something
Sure, of
before?
course.
Okay. Yeah, I think I understand that what we're doing now is we're doing a brainstorming about BG 2050 only. What we would like to do, but of course I would like people to respond for themselves, is to see if there is a way that we can conceive the beginning of a campaign, a communication campaign. So in order to do that, of course you need to discuss the content and brainstorm about the strategy, but we can already design some of the elements of the campaign itself. And we have some tools that we can use that are in the slides. If you go back to the slides, and maybe someone with a computer can easily access the slides, and you can click on some of the links that you have over there. We also have the printed version of the slides that you can use. And I'll make sure that we have an extra computer to access the internet with the slides and the links, because we can already start this strategy in terms of making the beginning of the design. Because of course it's not going to happen in a couple of days, right? It's complicated. But if you keep talking about the story world itself, it will never stop, because it's an ongoing process. The story world will never stop. It's not possible. Only will stop something that will say, okay, I'm going to communicate from this date to this date on this medium, and this medium. And I'm reaching out to a community of people in this area, or I'm reaching out to a community of people in this domain, things like that. So this is more like trying to storyboard. Storyboard maybe would be the good word, to storyboard something. I think we can storyboard something for tonight, for the people who are going to come tomorrow. And you can write directly on those papers, and you can write on Post-its and use the walls, and you can write on the boards. And you have paper, and I will bring you whatever you need as colors, papers, etc. Now, we've heard from Story World, we heard from communities, because when you were talking from the point of view of the communities, but it's not the whole community, because the other people are not here.
That's why I raised that point. Because I didn't know whether, are we off base in what you heard when we talked about community? Do you feel like we've missed something that in those areas that we should have addressed?
I mean, I think I think those ideas are pretty applicable for the younger generation too. I think having those small areas of town that are walkable and livable for people really helps, because a lot of people are only wanting to live in a certain radius of downtown, as far as the younger people that I know, which really limits the affordable quality of housing. But I also feel like we're in two different worlds a little bit too, because we're from the younger generation, but we also work with the refugee and immigrant population here for our jobs. And so we see that side of it too, which is going to be a growing number.
So how old are you? Just curious.
22.
Yeah, we're both 22. Okay.
So to that point, if you're working with the immigrants and refugees, the walking communities, they're already building themselves in our communities. When I came to Western in '88, Campbell Lane was a gravel road. Okay, I live on Three Springs Road, Nutterville, and those apartments out there across from Three Springs, in that whole area, they were the very high end apartments. And as I cut through there to go to the mall, because traffic sucks, you got to find the back ways to get everywhere you want to go. I drive through these small communities where the immigrants are coming in, and they don't have cars, or they don't have that money to buy the car. So they're now building their own communities. When I used to travel through and see college students, there are no more college students. It's an immigrant world of its own. There's a little BP AM Express that has opened up on Three Springs Road that has a laundromat. Now they can clean their clothes. They go to Three Springs Flealand for all of their shopping needs. So that type of community effort is organically growing itself already. We have areas in town we call Little Mexico. We have they all have their own little names. What the only thing I want to interject, I don't know where it goes on your storyboard, and I just got here. So as you build your smaller communities, and that sounds great on paper and looks beautiful, and as you put immigrants in homes that they don't own or try to get them to home ownership, I live in a neighborhood where we've had some of that occur. Love my neighbors, but culturally they don't take care of their yard the way I do, or take care of their homes the way I do. So it affects the value of my home and my property. So those, and I get it. It's the world we live in. But I've also come from a background of doing a lot of residential inspections in 14 counties around us. The communities that I go into that the houses are crappy, and the people that are buying crappy houses because that's all they can afford. They're buying a crappy house because that's all they can afford, and they can't maintain it, so it gets crappier. So we can build all the affordable housing we want to, but culturally, if they don't take care of it, it'll be a one-generation home that we're putting. I hear talk now, we're going to do mortgages on 40 years and 50 years. Because it's unaffordable for a 30-year mortgage. So let's make it a 40-year. Cars used to be bought on 4-year terms. You have to buy a car now. It's 7 years if you bought a new car, so you can afford it. So that's my only salt sprinkle on this is as we paint this pretty gorgeous picture of where Bowling Green's going to be, the cultures that are coming in here that you're overseeing, and I love it. I think it's great. That's what America's all about is about immigration, legal immigration. Come put your part in, work hard. We need workers. But culturally, I'm different from taking care of my house and the person next to me. And it's like,
Well, that's where you can get into those things like code enforcement and civic engagement and just, programs like that, dude. But a lot of times, those particular issues kind of fall back into just education.
that was my point.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It's not always a cultural thing.
Yeah.
It's a lack of training and education when they arrive.
Yes.
And that's the investment that it takes on a
Yes.
community to welcome them and teach them how to use a thermostat in their house,
Yes.
what to do with the trash,
I've never had a thermostat. What is
how to
this?
find childcare for their 10 kids.
My kid is from Guatemala. He came here when he was 10 years old. Like yesterday, I had to teach him how to put sheets on a bed. He'd never slept on a bed with
Yeah.
sheets. I mean, that's just.
You
You can't expect somebody to know they have to mow their yard when they don't know how to put a sheet on.
Right.
So
Right.
here's the thing.
And we're at a table that's not very culturally diverse.
Those we have 100 birth countries represented and over 100 languages in this community, in that circle. And Josh will tell you that it's not all, even though they go to school, there's some assimilation. There's also a lot of, I don't want to call it racism, because it's not racism.
Oh, there's plenty of that.
There's some of that, but it's really more of selective, of not allowing them to participate in the job market because they can't speak English or they can't. So I think part of our 2050 plan should be, we need a very healthy language, assistance, even technology. There's technology
And
now, there's translator
And
technology.
not just for other people to learn how to speak English, but for us to learn how to speak other languages.
That too. But here's the thing, I'm really talking about being able to pay that, sorry. I'm talking about being able to get that job that isn't working at the chicken pulling plant. You're riding the bus to the chicken pulling plant.
Careful now.
Just saying, that they don't pay. But having that job at AESC and getting it because you can speak well enough to be safe while you're doing it, that job pays. And those payments help you keep that house up,
Yes.
right? So I'm just saying we really need to put in the plans, some language.
Okay, I think there is a misunderstanding about the fact that we could, I'm trying to look for my word because it's not a problem of language, it's more than language, it's also, I want to be careful. Because I come from France, right? I am not an immigrant. I am a tourist. I am on a tourist visa. I'm not authorized to work in the United States. And if I want to migrate to the United States, it's too expensive for me, and it's too complicated. So I just want to make sure, since you're talking about immigrants. So the thing is, if you want to co-design a transmedia campaign to talk about 2050. Here we have a possibility to use some tools, and we are a group that is very democratic, okay? Because it's open, and this was not planned. It's the first time we meet. Of course, some of you do you know each other. So we should take the advantage of the situation today and tomorrow to start to storyboard. When I say storyboard, I can say design, write, create, draw, whatever, the campaign itself, not the topics that go into the campaigns. Because if you talk about the topics themselves and you develop more about the topics, it's an ongoing process. It will never end, right? So those topics that you're talking about, they go into this list, right? Because we already have the 8 pillars that comes from the previous workshop they did with the civic imagination, okay? And for those who want to catch up with that, we can talk about this right after this, okay? You already have the topics, okay? So now you need to go to the other families, the gameplay family, the business model family, the multi-platform and the design, the community. How are you going to address those issues in terms of communication? Otherwise, this is not going to go out to the public or to the general public. It will be an ongoing conversation. So what do you do with the ongoing conversation? So yes, I just 1 second. So we heard about the production family, but the production family, what I understand myself is that you did production of the campaign. You talked about ideas within the story world, which is a little bit different from me, but that's very useful for the story world, which is everywhere, right? Then we heard from the communities family. So the communities family, what I understand that is coming from you is that you have inputs, okay, that also related to the story world, but I didn't hear anything about the communities that are not in Bowling Green, but you can reach out to, like the image you want to provide to a broader audience regarding what's happening here. That's another point of view to think about communities when we reach out to others. Then we have not heard from gameplay, so we're going to talk about gameplay and design now. And then I would like to start something new because we have a mentor coming at 4, and it's a very good appointment to have, to close this discussion because she's specialized, she's an expert in change, and she's also specialized in storytelling and transmedia. So maybe before that, we want to come up with something that will be more accurate to a transmedia campaign. That's why maybe we should split into at least 2 families, one that would be talking about the business model, the production, the multi-platform, and one was more into the story world, the design, the gameplay. How do you take all those pillars and those ideas into the world, right? So then instead of being 1 table, we should be 2 tables, one that is more like production and the other one which is more stories, right? So do you have any question about what I've just said? Yes, and Tara has a question.
I'm a little confused because to produce like the specific ad or the idea of like, oh, I'm gonna go on Instagram and market to this zip code and say this stuff, right? Don't you need the story in it? Like if I'm gonna say that, I need to know like who lives in this county and that they're 30% refugees and that they face these issues, right? So don't we need the story first for the production?
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Okay, so you can decide that within your family. So absolutely, you are Story World family, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So we definitely. Yeah, you should handle this issue and then produce something from that would go into some kind of different mediums, or at least one medium. Let's say Instagram, right? You take this as an example. Okay, so you can start from, okay, we're going to do something small, just Instagram, and then you can build from that. But then where are we going to be on TV one day, and if we're on TV, are we going to address just the people living in the state, or are we going to address the entire world, because we are going to use social media even more, right? Yeah, so this is important. Yeah, so I think everybody's thinking, so I don't want to interrupt the process of the thought itself. Let's listen to Tara, then I would like to listen to Nathan.
So based on what you're saying and how you were kind of more envisioning what we were trying to do in our different families. So, and Josh is right, we have to know the backstory in order to kind of put together a solution. You have to be able to have the background. So kind of just making sure I'm on the right page here from a community standpoint. One of the things that you're wanting from us is not just the community focus, but how do we implement those ideas? Well, to do that, we kind of have to know from these different generational gaps and cultural gaps and everything, what the feelings are on that, so how we know what to market and what to target as. So I guess like we have a nice range of people here. You're 22, I'm 40. Alan, you're 60 something.
That's generous.
So we get that, So I think we have a nice enough group here. So that would be my thing is like, from a standpoint of your generation, what do you all do for your medical needs? Do you have a regular physician?
Can you do that once we start?
Oh yeah. I can wait.
I have one question.
Yeah, do you understand what I mean?
Yes,
I'm
yes,
going to
yes.
leave. You're going to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like
So,
where you're going.
very
with
good.
that, because it gets down to things that are important. So there is something that Jevin Burr taught us. And this is a very senior creative guy for the Innovation Campus. I won't go through all his background, but he worked as a senior curator at Google. He knows artists and creative people all over the world. He fell in love with this place. Adaptively reused facility, 285,000 square feet. It's canvas, for art. But he left us. He gave us this entire sort of cultural development journey. But he left us with one thing. He said, whatever you do, he said, make sure that Innovation Campus in Bowling Green is a curious place perceived from the outside. He said, curiosity will bring people to pay attention. And that's the hardest thing you can do. Like trying to get people's attention now, we've been all brainwashed. We have
you can
attention
write
spans of 12
curiosity as a
seconds.
keyword.
You've been doing that since you can see.
Here, I'll move here.
But
Where
if
I
you're
was
curious about something,
Why
you'll
don't you use
find.
this paper first?
Right?
I'll help
And
you.
so I did, when we split up, just keep that in mind, that a part of our storytelling, storyboard, I think needs to kind of begin with curiosity and attention, and then sort of, keep it, right?
Okay,
That's-
so
yeah.
now
That's what he
okay, hold on to your ideas, take notes, okay, because you're going to work on this. But I think I still believe we should split in two, not instead of being a big one. Let's listen to Nathan. So this morning, together with one or two other people, you came up with a small idea that is very powerful.
Yeah, so the characters we had were the clue, the puzzle, and the grandfather.
Achiever.
So make a puzzle with some clues, and then the achiever is going to put it all together, and that's the video game. So
It's a video game.
Yeah.
You can. It's okay.
So in gameplay, we created a video game, and you're going to have different sections, which are the pillars, and then we decided, well, it's going to take a long time. I'm not a gamer, but I know that it pretty much consumes people. So it's going to take a long time to create the game. So said, what pillar do we want our section to, or what section do we want to start with? So we did housing, and said, so my background's Army, and it's like keep it simple, stupid. So we broke it down to 4 things that we're gonna focus on throughout the game, which was character. So kind of the power level of the character. There'd be 4 levels of it. So we know that in Bowling Green, and I might be wrong, but about a 1% rate of homeless. So you would start the game as homeless, and you'd have 4 levels: homeless, renter, owner, and then investor. And that's kind of like your power level or your life. And then you'd have game levels. And since 2050, divide that by 5 would be 5. We decided by years would be the level. So, once you're starting out, then we'd go to 20, 30, 35, 40, 45, and 50. And then objectives. So the percentage of each character level would be based on the community. So right now we have homeless rate of 1%, and you have a population of 80,000 roughly. So 800 people. If we were to keep that, then we'd have 1,600 people homeless in 2050. So the goal would be 0%, and that may or may not be achievable based off of things we've already spoke of. And then renters, we just did the rest with 60, 30, 10, because you need a pretty even split to keep everything going. And you would have your life of the character would be green, amber, red, or green, yellow, and red. So if you're for homeless 0 to 0.5%, then you're green. 0.5 to 1%, you're yellow. And then over 1%, you die and would have to start over. Well,
Oregon Trail.
right. So as that goes on, so for renter, it would be like 50%, and then 40% would be red, and you would go back to homeless, right? And then owner, you're at 30%, and you want the population to be at 20 to 40, that range in there. Otherwise, you have to go back to renter. And then investor, 10%. If it's dropping below 5 or over 15, then you would go back to owner. From investor, you're not gonna, if you, hit rock bottom or whatever, you're not gonna go straight to death. So we said you'll just go back one level of life, right? Now, with that, you have events. So we know, I'm new to Bowling Green, but I do know that weather plays a significant role, right? We have things like tornadoes and whatnot, population surge, economic windfall, government shutdowns, or things like COVID and whatnot. That's going to play into that. So you put that into the game, and that's pretty much as far as we got.
So randomly, you could have a natural disaster, a fire.
Random, yep.
And you have to start over again.
Yeah. Yeah, and depending how you have stuff built up, so
Can you buy insurance?
I'm
Business
sure.
model.
Yeah.
There's actually a game very similar to what you're talking about in a
Yes.
different realm. It's called Adventure Capitalist.
There's also Second Life.
Yeah.
Second
So
one.
those are different things that I
We
think.
have 3 different participants.
I was gonna say I see 2.
I told them, you're about to go down the rabbit hole. Oriented by Michael and then.
Did he?
But anyway, kind of the similar model is you start with like basically a lemonade stand, and then you choose to invest in different models and things can happen and stuff like that. But you could take something like that and repurpose it.
Right.
I
And
think we're going to change the position of the tables very soon. So we are going to close this conversation to start something else. So, so we are recording at the moment. So we are doing the gameplay family, and Michael, we're going to change the position of the table in a few seconds because we're going to split. Yeah. So just 1 minute, we are finishing. Okay. So basically, we went through business model, production, gameplay, story world. We are missing a little bit of design, etc. We didn't talk about the multi-platform yet, but oh, you have design. Okay.
Design
So
the game.
what I would like to do, I mean, do you understand the point about splitting into families, because then we have newcomers coming and they're going to join families, so it's going to, so what would, now that you understand the situation, I would like to know, your point of view, especially from the newcomers, and we're missing one person here, but you're 4 people, so what would you like to, do you like to stay in your family? Do you want to stay as a bigger family, or how do you want to do the next step? We have another hour to go, maybe, like about continue to progress in this. How do you see it happening in the next hour?
I think as far as the perspectives are presented at the table, it kind of helps being them all together, unless we can maybe separate, kind of split up equally in that kind of way, especially if we're going to continue with this kind of younger.
Yeah, I think this part is very important as far as the story world. So I think some people would like to remain in the story world or join the story world, right? But as far as the other part, like production, business model, multi-platform design, I mean, do you want to start that now, or do you want to remain as a big family for the story world, and then we'll do the other things some other time? It looks like you are very involved in the story world, everyone, right?
I mean, I kind of like the idea, if not just the story world, but I still think that in order to create these plans that you expect each of our groups to do, we kind of have to.
Or put the cart before the horse.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to
Right.
have a little bit more of that discussion to find out exactly perspective. And you can't solve a problem until you know what the problem is.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Okay. So what about, I have another idea to submit since we have new people coming in. What about doing 2 big family for story world, including gameplay? Because we have so much insight already regarding the gameplay, the game design, the gamification, we call it, right? That will include design, as you can already talk about, guys. And then we do 2 different big family, and then we compare in 1 hour before we have the mentor coming at 4. And then we have maybe 1 family that, of the people who've been here this morning, and then 1 family of the people of this afternoon. And Nathan, you can be with the people from this morning, and I start a new family for Story World. You see what I mean?
I do, but I think it's kind of, I don't know. What do you think, buddy? Think maybe integrating some of the newer.
Yeah.
I think maybe if we kind of integrate a
Okay,
little bit better.
so we
it'd be
do
better.
only
That's a
one
question.
interview.
Is it easier, Karim, since you have done that, if you develop a game, to switch roles during the day, or maybe each one of us might have 2 or 3 different roles at the same time,
Yeah,
without switching, but maintaining different roles?
maybe instead of just assigning something a role, we can say, hey, I think I'm better off situated in one of these groups.
What do you think? What's going to contribute?
Okay, we were deciding now as a collective what we're going to do now, and we are more into the story world, and we want to remain into the story world using the insight from this morning. We had a very, very long conversation that arrived to a point where we know what we're doing. So we don't want to change our roles. We keep our roles, and we build from that, from the conversation we just had, because there was a lot of understanding. Do you agree?
Honestly, I'm a little lost.
Just say yes.
Yeah.
You have a choice.
I mean, are you going to be okay to catch up with those people who already, already, or do you want to do something separately before and then join the family?
I think integrating might help
Yeah.
catch you up. Yeah.
Okay.
Integration's probably a good
Okay,
idea.
because they did. I mean, they are using already the result that they have from before, right? So, okay, so let's do that. And so I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to leave this group to take care of new people arriving in the group, to inform them about what we just did so they can join you, okay? And then we can have an appointment. In how much time do you need? It's 2:00. Do you want half an hour, 45 minutes?